It was a gray Monday morning in New York City. The skyline shimmered with early sunlight bouncing off glass towers, and from the 62nd floor of the Harrington Corporation building, billionaire Edward Harrington stared at his phone, frustrated. His personal assistant had just reminded him, again, that the company accountant reported missing items from his penthouse. Expensive crystal vases, a gold pen from Dubai, and a designer watch. "Someone's stealing from me," Edward sighed coldly. "And it's someone inside my house." He lived alone in a mansion that was more art gallery than home. His wife had died years ago, and his only son, Dylan, was studying abroad. The only people allowed in were his butler, his driver, and the cleaning staff. Among them was Maria Alvarez, a quiet woman in her 40s who had cleaned for him for nearly a decade. She was humble, soft-spoken, and always early. Edward barely noticed her, until now. "She's been working here too long," he muttered. "If anything's missing, she knows where everything is." Edward picked up his phone and scrolled to Maria's number. His hand hovered for a second. Then, without hesitation, he hit call. The phone rang twice before a soft, younger voice answered. "Hello," Edward frowned. "Who is this?" "I'm trying to reach Maria." "This is Sophia, her daughter," the voice said politely. "My mom is not here right now. She's at the hospital." Edward froze. "Hospital? Why?" Sophia hesitated. "She didn't want me to tell anyone. But she's been sick for a while. She still came to work because she didn't want to lose her job." That caught Edward off guard. "Sick? What kind of sickness?" "She has leukemia," Sophia said softly. "She's been going for treatment after work. Sometimes she hides it so no one knows. She didn't even want you to find out." Edward sank into his chair, feeling the words hit him like a hammer. Leukemia. The maid he was about to fire, the woman he suspected of stealing, was fighting for her life. But he still had a company to run, and logic pushed his emotions aside. "I'm sorry to hear that," he said carefully, his tone returning to its usual distance. "But there are missing items from my home. Things that disappeared recently. Your mother is the only one with access." The line went silent for a long moment. Then Sophia spoke, her voice trembling. "Mr. Harrington, you're wrong. My mom would never steal. She cleans your house because she's proud of it. Even when she was sick, she said, 'Mr. Harrington pays fair, and he's kind. Never betray his trust.'" Edward didn't respond. Sophia took a deep breath and said quietly, "But maybe you should know the truth before you decide to fire her." Later that evening, Edward couldn't stop thinking about the call. He told his driver to take him to St. Mary's Hospital. It was a place he hadn't stepped foot in for years, not since his wife died there. When he walked into the small room, Maria was sleeping. The smell of antiseptic filled the air, and the heart monitor beeped softly. Sophia, her daughter, sat beside her, reading a small notebook. Edward knocked lightly on the doorframe. Sophia looked up, startled. "Mr. Harrington," he nodded. "I came to see her." Sophia stood up quickly. "I didn't mean to upset you on the phone. He raised a hand gently. "It's all right, I needed to come." Maria stirred and slowly opened her eyes. "Mr. Harrington," she whispered weakly. Edward forced a smile. "You should have told me you were ill." "I didn't want pity," she said softly. "I wanted to earn my way. I promised you I'd keep your home spotless." He looked around, at the worn bag beside her bed, the cheap flowers from a dollar store, the little notebook in Sophia's hands. It was a world far removed from his marble penthouse. "What's that?" he asked, nodding toward the notebook. Sophia hesitated. "It's my mom's journal. She wrote letters in it. To you, to me." He frowned. Sophia opened to one page and read aloud quietly. "Greater than, Mr. Harrington doesn't know this, but I owe him more than a job. Years ago, when my husband died, I had nothing. I worked for him even when I could barely afford food. He never raised his voice at me, never treated me small. One day, I found his lost watch in the laundry room. I could have kept it, but I left it on his desk. He never knew. He never will." Edward blinked. That gold watch, the one he thought was stolen. "I found it in the wrong drawer last week," he muttered. "I blamed her for it." Sophia smiled sadly. "She knew, but she never said a word. She didn't want to make you feel guilty for suspecting her." Edward sank into a chair. For the first time in years, he felt shame. Real shame. He looked at Maria. "You've been loyal to me all this time, and I repaid you with doubt." Maria smiled weakly. "You've given me work, Mr. Harrington. That's enough. He shook his head. No, it's not. He turned to Sophia. You said she's getting treatment. Sophia nodded. Yes, but we can't afford the next cycle. They said we need $60,000. I tried to apply for charity aid, but Edward pulled out his phone. Not anymore. That week, Edward paid all her medical bills in full, anonymously at first. But when Maria found out, she wept for an hour. She recovered slowly over the next few months, and when she returned to work, something had changed in Edward. He started asking about her daughter. Sophia was studying nursing but had paused her education to take care of her mother. Edward personally met with the dean of her university and reinstated her scholarship, under a new sponsorship program he started called the Harrington Hope Fund. Maria returned to her duties part-time, but now Edward insisted she take a seat at the table for coffee every morning. It was uncomfortable for her at first. She wasn't used to being treated like family, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. One morning, as they sat together looking out over the city, Edward finally said, "Maria, I need to confess something. When I called that day, I was going to fire you." Maria chuckled softly. "I know. Sophia told me. I told her not to be angry with you. But I was wrong," he said, his voice low. "And you changed me." She smiled. Sometimes, people don't know they're lost until kindness finds them. A year later, Harrington Corporation launched a new foundation for working-class families struggling with medical bills. At the launch ceremony, Edward stood on stage with Maria and Sophia by his side. He told the crowd, "A single phone call taught me more about humanity than all my years in business." When the applause faded, he looked at Maria, alive, healthy, grateful, and smiled. The maid he almost fired had become the reason he found purpose again. And as they walked off stage, Sophia whispered to him, "You gave my mother her life back." Edward replied softly, "No, Sophia. She gave me mine." Never judge people by their position or silence. The quiet ones often carry the loudest truths. One act of understanding can change not just a life, but a heart hardened by pride.